secret shovel. While we're on the topic of tunneling and digging, let's look at a small Easter egg that has left the Helldivers community pretty confused. In the tutorial level, where you're first learning the ropes as a Helldiver, you're free to roam the area when you aren't completing the grueling obstacle course. And what you'll find, if you explore enough, is what appears to be a shrine of sorts. A statue with a saluting Helldiver is standing at attention with a small shovel planted in the dirt in front of it. 2 Super Earth flags extend from the rocks inside this small alcove. That isn't exactly hard to find, which makes its purpose all the more mysterious. Players have attempted to salute the statue in return, to blow up the shovel with grenades, all to no avail. Whether or not there's an Easter egg that's hidden there, no one knows, and everyone is still waiting to see. There is the possibility that there's no surprise activation of any Easter egg. We might all just be too used to Easter eggs from Call of Duty, and we're expecting too much from this game. It might just be that the statue and the shovel hint at a small level of humanity that still exists in the Helldivers, that the shovel is a small tribute to a fallen comrade that drew the short straw on those 21% survival odds that Helldivers have. It's also possible that they didn't make it through the obstacle course. The obvious answer is that the shovel is used to dig a small grave for a lonely Helldiver that didn't make it through basic training. But the slightly hidden nature of the item seems to imply that it's a little off-script. Helldivers die all the time on the battlefield, and most of them, 99% of them, don't get any sort of grave. In fact, I would wager a guess that the Super Earth Federation doesn't care at all about the actual Helldiver, and really is only interested in retrieving the expensive armor that they're wearing. The shovel mystery remains. If you have any ideas, let us know in the comments. Traveling Terminids. Speaking of mysteries, this one still evades the minds of everyday soldiers in the Super Earth Armed Forces. How, exactly, the Terminids get from planet to planet and solar system to solar system? How do they move around the galaxy so freely when they are clearly not piloting any starships or otherwise walking through a portal that transports them through space and time? You hear this question from soldiers on board the ship between missions. Quote, "Even after all these years, we still don't know how Terminids spread from solar system to solar system." End quote. The thing is, whenever you hear someone on the ship asking questions like this, you have to dig a layer deeper and ask yourself if the game developers are prompting you to think about the answer. In a meta sense, they purposely put that piece of dialogue in there. These game characters don't have free will, meaning Arrowhead Studios wanted you to think about how Terminids are getting from planet to planet. And the simple answer is they aren't, at least not on their own. Let's back up, because I think there are 2 distinct modes or times of travel to talk about. First, their original dispersion. That is, how did the Terminids end up on each individual planet to begin with? For that, we have to look way back, because somehow the Terminids were an extraterrestrial species before humans came in contact with them. They existed on resource-rich planets before Super Earth got involved. I've got 2 hypotheses here. First, the sort of easy escape answer, that somehow they do have a method of traveling from planet to planet on their own. Maybe it's like spaceship troopers and they can somehow fling eggs into space that eventually land on other planets and repopulate them. That's a possibility. The other is that they're somehow being aided. We discussed already that the Illuminate may have been in conflict with the Terminids or may have been farming them for fuel. It's possible that during that original war, potentially ages before humanity went to the stars, that the Illuminate had already spread Terminids around the galaxy, and what Super Earth encounters is really just the remnants of a war long before their time. And that's all well and good, but occasionally the Helldivers liberate a planet of Terminids only to have them reinfest the planet soon after. How is that happening? For that, we might have to look in a mirror. On certain Terminid warfronts, Helldivers will be tasked with shutting down illegal broadcast towers. Except, who is putting or hacking into these broadcast towers? It's certainly not the Terminids. They don't seem especially computer savvy, which leaves us with some sort of rebel group as the culprit. If you look at the content that's actually being broadcast, you'll see messages like, quote, "This threat is all about oil. The government made this," end quote. the wording of which pretty obviously implies that it's coming from a rebel group on Super Earth, or from Super Earth. And this is our hint towards the repopulation of Terminids. If the Super Earth Federation is profiting from this war, why would they want it to stop? The longer they can continue farming bugs, the better. So how do you ensure an endless supply of Terminids? You provide the supply yourself. That's right. Report me to your local democracy officer all you want, but I'll say it. Super Earth is secretly planting the bugs on the planet in order to continue the war. All Helldivers leave the planet and move on to the next. More Terminids are sent in and allowed to recapture the planet, necessitating another Helldiver force to rain down from space and wipe them out. Termicide will evolve Terminids. Helldivers have a range of responsibilities: eliminating Terminid hives, thinning their numbers down, activating E710 pumps, eradicating automatons, and of course, raising the Super Earth flag. But there is a newer mission that Helldivers are being tasked with: activating Terminid control systems. In a nutshell, these are giant bug spray towers that suppress Terminid activity, wiping all the Terminids out within a certain radius. Sounds great, right? But have you ever been around when a service comes to your neighborhood to spray for mosquitoes? I had a friend that tried to work for one of those one time. He didn't last more than a week. The chemicals had him breaking out almost immediately and all sorts of rashes and whatnot. And that was just for mosquitoes. Can you imagine what kind of chemicals would be needed to eliminate a car-sized bug? I can't imagine it's good for the Helldivers stationed there. Think for a moment, though, about what effects that might have on the Terminids. Sure, it will most likely kill them, but these are bugs that have already been genetically modified. They're genetically unstable. Super Earth has been experimenting on them, probably in order to find ways to make them produce more fuel. So what's to say that introducing another highly toxic chemical into the mix wouldn't cause some sort of mutation? This first burst of mutations allowed them to escape the farms Super Earth had placed them in. What if a second mutation introduced all kinds of other abilities? We actually don't even have to wonder about this, because as of recently, Helldivers have been reporting new flying bugs on Terminid-infested planets. Where would that ability have come from? If there was no outside interaction, it's doubtful that this kind of evolution would happen at such a fast timeline. They didn't exist at the start of the Second War, so I doubt they gained that ability to fly in a couple months. The only explanation is that somehow humanity had a hand in fast-forwarding their evolution. So, sure, we may have accidentally given them the ability to fly, but what's the big deal? Well, it might not be a big deal when it's a small bug that's flying around, but what if a Terminid charger suddenly had the ability to fly? Not so funny anymore, is it? What if a Bile Titan gained the armor of a charger? Suddenly we have a much bigger problem on our hands.